I must say it clearly, even if it hurts. It's not a lack of love. It's reality. You can't rely solely on your children for a good old age. For many years, I believed that if I gave them everything, they would be there to give it back when I needed it most. But life doesn't work that way. People change. Priorities change. Children grow up, make their own way, start their own families, and you suddenly realize you're in another chapter, one that many simply don't have the time or energy to read. And then the question no one wants to ask arises, what if they aren't there? What if they can't? What if they simply don't want to? It's not a question meant to breed resentment. It's a question to open your eyes. Because aging well shouldn't depend solely on the love or availability of others. It must rest on something much more solid: your preparation, your autonomy, and your clarity of mind. Today, I want to talk to you about exactly that. About 3 fundamental pillars that can give you security, dignity, and well-being, without having to wait for or ask anything of anyone. And no, it doesn't mean you should distance yourself from your children or stop loving them. It means you can build a firm foundation for yourself, one that will support you even if one day they aren't available or can't respond as you hoped. We'll discuss money, emotions, health, key decisions that we often postpone, believing that won't happen to me. But it does happen. And the important thing is that we're ready when the time comes. So stay with me until the end. Not to be afraid, but to be equipped. This isn't about speaking ill of your children. It's not about assigning blame or stirring up resentment. It's about opening your eyes to see life as it is, not as we wish it were. For generations we were taught that children are their parents' safety net, that if you raised them with love, if you gave them everything, if you strove for their future, they'd be there to care for yours. But that belongs to a world that no longer fully exists. Today, life moves faster. Distances are greater. Priorities are different. Children no longer live around the corner. Many move to other cities, other countries. Some have demanding jobs, their own families, and although the love remains, time and energy are no longer the same. I'll tell you about Matilda. Matilda is 79 years old. She's been a widow for more than a decade. She was always a devoted, present, generous mother. She has 2 children, whom she helped raise on her own. When her health began to falter a bit, she thought, my children will be here to help me. And at first, they were. But one got a job abroad. The other has 3 young children and a life full of commitments. Calls began to thin out. Visits became shorter. Matilda went from feeling accompanied to feeling invisible. There were never fights. There was never a lack of love. But there was something stronger. Reality. A reality in which her children could no longer be present as she needed. And that left her with no plan, no support, no resources. Does that mean her children are bad? Of course not. It means life doesn't always adapt its timing to our needs. And that's why it's dangerous to trust blindly. Because when you place your entire old age in someone else's hands, even in your children's, you risk waiting for something that doesn't always come. The truth is, your children can love you deeply. They can hold you in their hearts. They can cry over every message they don't reply to in time, every visit they can't make. But that love doesn't automatically make them responsible for your old age. The responsibility for your well-being, your security, your peace of mind, must lie first and foremost in your own hands. And if one day they come, if they're there with you and they accompany you, that will be beautiful. But it cannot be your only plan, because this isn't about love. It's about structure, prevention, dignity. And so, from now on, we're going to build with you the 3 pillars that will allow you to live a secure, happy, free old age without depending on what others can or cannot give you. Pillar 1. Financial autonomy. If there is one foundation that sustains your well-being in old age, it is this: control over your own resources. Having financial autonomy is not just about having money. It's about having the freedom to make decisions, the power to choose where to live, what to eat, how to care for yourself, and above all, not depending emotionally or economically on anyone. I'll tell you a story I've heard many times under different names. A lady, let's call her Julia, had a modest pension and a home she'd lived in for over 40 years. When her son lost his job, she said, "Stay here. You don't have to pay me anything." Time later, he suggested putting the house in his name to protect it from taxes and managing the pension together to administer it better. Julia agreed. She trusted him. He was her son. But what began as help ended up stripping her of all control over her life. Over time, she felt like a guest in her own home. She could no longer voice opinions about who came over, what was purchased, or even whether she could use the money to see a doctor. And although her son meant no harm, the situation made her dependent, vulnerable, voiceless. This happens far more often than we imagine, and not always out of malice, but from misinformation, emotional pressure, or wanting to help without considering consequences. So if there's one thing I want you to remember today, it's this. Don't transfer property, savings, or income without clear, written agreements and legal safeguards. It doesn't matter if it's your child, your granddaughter, or your best friend. Your security must be protected before your trust. Also, always keep a personal reserve. A fund, however small, that only you can access. That money can be the difference between having options or none when you need them most. Don't relinquish total control over your accounts or cards. It's fine to accept help, but with oversight. It's not about distrust, but about protecting yourself wisely. Avoid the trap of emotional dependency. Sometimes we feel giving is a way to secure company or affection. But true love cannot be bought nor held by silent sacrifices. And if someone makes you feel guilty for wanting to protect your assets, for safeguarding your pension, for keeping a separate fund, remember this: it isn't selfish, it's protection. Financial autonomy doesn't mean you have to live alone or without help. It means that even if you need support, the decisions remain yours. And that, at this stage of life, is worth its weight in gold. Now let's move on to the second pillar, which we often forget: a social network outside the family. Because aging shouldn't mean isolation. Shall we? Interlude. Is it wrong to help your children financially? No. Helping your children is not wrong. In fact, it's natural. If you can and want to support them, that's fine. But there's a big difference between helping with love and giving everything out of obligation or guilt. Many older adults feel their worth lies in what they give. They gift money, property, time, even sacrifice their own stability in hopes of maintaining their children's affection. But affection based on interest isn't affection, it's hidden dependency. So how can you help without losing your balance? First, with clear boundaries. If you decide to lend your child money, set conditions. I'll lend you this, but I need it back by such and such a date. Or, I'll cover this part, but the rest is up to you. Second, without compromising your well-being. Never help at the expense of what you need to live. Your health, your food, your medicine, your peace should never be at risk to support another adult. Third, with love, not guilt. Helping shouldn't come from fear of being left alone or guilt over past mistakes. It should be a choice born of serenity, because when you give under pressure, you end up drained, resentful, and more vulnerable. Fourth, with legal awareness. If you're going to cede part of your assets, do so with informed consent. Consult a lawyer. Put everything in writing. A gift without paperwork can become an irreversible loss. Supporting doesn't mean surrendering. Giving doesn't mean disappearing. As an old saying goes, help, yes, but not to the point that you're the one who ends up needing help. Have you ever helped your children financially? Did you set limits? Do you regret it? Or are you at peace with what you gave? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to read your story. And now, let's move on to the second pillar for a happy, secure old age: social and emotional independence outside the family. Pillar 2, emotional independence. Let me ask you a sincere question. How much of your daily happiness depends on your children calling or visiting you? For many older adults, the answer is hard to admit. Sometimes, without realizing it, we place all our joy, all our hope, on a phone call, a weekend visit, a word of recognition that may never come. I'll tell you about Martha. Martha is 78 years old, a strong woman who worked her entire life to raise her 3 children. When she retired, she thought she would finally enjoy them more. Lunches, outings, long conversations. But reality was different. Her children, caught up in their careers, their families, their problems, began to visit less and less. At first, Martha waited by the phone every day. She got up early, made coffee, sat in her favorite chair, and watched the clock. A call, a sign, anything. And when it didn't come, her spirits sank. Her day turned grey, her thoughts heavy. All her happiness was tied to something she couldn't control, someone else's attention. That's the great danger of not building emotional independence. Because depending on others' will to feel alive makes us hostages to their time, their moods, their priorities. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can build a rich life full of purpose that doesn't depend on the frequency of visits or calls. How? First, by cultivating true friendships. Seek out people your age with your interests. A friend can be the best antidote to loneliness. A coffee, a walk, an honest conversation, worth more than 1,000 unkept promises. Second, by having your own projects. It's never too late to learn something new, to teach, to create. Painting classes, gardening, book clubs, volunteering. Projects give us reasons to get up, to smile, to feel useful. Third, by nourishing your inner world. Spirituality in any form strengthens the soul. Meditating, praying, practicing gratitude, enjoying nature. Anything that connects you to something greater than yourself gives you strength for the days when the phone stays silent. And one fundamental warning: beware of emotional blackmail. Phrases like, "If you don't help me, I'll never call you again. If you don't do this, you won't see your grandchildren anymore," are manipulations. And no one, absolutely no one, should condition your inner peace on their convenience. Remember, your life, your joy, your sense of worth cannot depend on someone else's calendar. Your children can love you deeply, but they have their own path. You must continue walking yours, with dignity, with joy, with your head held high. I ask you, do you have something today that makes you smile, even if no one's watching? What activity, what small pleasure could you reclaim for yourself? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to read your story. And now, let's move on to the third pillar, one we sometimes forget, but is equally vital: caring for your health and environment as the greatest act of self-love. Special section: how to build a network beyond your children. There's a truth that's hard to accept, but liberating. Family isn't always where you were born. Sometimes you build it later, with those who are actually present. Many people reach 60 or 70 believing their social circle is already closed, that if their children aren't nearby, they must resign themselves to loneliness. But life, even in later years, continues to offer opportunities to reconnect, to form new relationships, to feel you belong. The key is looking beyond the familiar, beyond your biological family. Your neighbors, for example, can be more than faces you wave to from your window. A kind gesture, a shared favor, a casual conversation can open the door to a lasting friendship. Many older adults living alone find in their neighbors a support network stronger than their own family. And what about friends from your own generation? People with whom you share similar memories, rhythms, and values. Perhaps you drifted apart over the years, but now, with more free time, you can reconnect. A phone call, a message, a simple invitation. Shall we grab a coffee? There are also community spaces, day clubs, senior centers, parishes, city-run workshops. There you'll find dozens of people in the same situation as you, seeking companionship, connection, meaning. Let me tell you about Richard. Richard retired at 65. Shortly afterward, his wife passed away. His children lived in other cities, and although they spoke by phone, the silence at home felt heavier each day. For months, Richard shut himself away. He ate breakfast alone, lunched alone, wandered without purpose. One day, passing the neighborhood cultural center, he saw a poster, "Free tango classes for seniors." He had never danced, but something in him said, why not? He went. And in that first class, beyond the basic step, he found something much more important. People. People like him, eager to laugh, to move, to share. Today, at 72, Richard has a group of friends he meets every week. They dance, have tea, celebrate birthdays. And although his children still call from time to time, he no longer lives waiting for that call. Because his social life no longer depends on them. He built it himself. That is the message of this section. You are not limited to your family tree. You can plant new roots in fertile ground with people who want to grow with you. And how do you begin? By taking the first step, even if it scares you. Accepting invitations, even if you know no one. Smiling at the person you see every day, even if you've never spoken. Because a network isn't formed overnight. It's woven, thread by thread, with small encounters that become real bonds. And in those bonds you find security, companionship, and the joy of living. Here's a question for you. Is there someone near you, in your building, on your street, in your neighborhood, with whom you could start a conversation this week? Tell me in the comments. And now let's move on to the final of the 3 pillars, one that's in your hands every day. Pillar 3, protected and smart health. There's a saying, he who cares for his body protects his future. And it's never truer than when we talk about aging with dignity. At a certain age, many believe health is only a matter of luck or inheritance. But the truth is that, although we cannot control everything, we can do far more than we imagine. And the difference between a peaceful old age and one full of crises often lies in small daily decisions. What do I mean by protected and smart health? First, understanding that your well-being must not depend on someone else caring for you. You can't live with the idea, if I get sick, my children will take care of me. Because what if they can't? What if they aren't there? What if life simply doesn't allow it? Your health is your responsibility, and protecting it intelligently is a form of freedom. Let's start with the basics. Nutrition. You don't need complicated diets or expensive products. Just choose consciously what goes on your plate. More vegetables, more fruit, fewer processed foods. Less salt, less sugar, more water. It's not about eating less, but about eating well. Your body still works, still regenerates, if you give it what it needs. Next is movement. You don't have to run a marathon, but walking for half an hour a day, stretching, climbing stairs when you can, dancing, all that keeps your circulation active, your muscles strong, your joints agile. The body ages more from neglect than from years. But smart health goes beyond the physical. It also implies foresight, keeping your medical checkups up to date, not ignoring symptoms, not waiting for something to hurt before getting checked. And above all, having your documents organized, your medical history, current medications, allergies, insurance policies, trusted doctors. Even beyond that, have you thought about your advance directives? I mean, putting in writing what you want, if one day you can't decide for yourself, whom you'd trust with your care, what treatments you'd accept or refuse, how you'd like to be supported in your final stage. It's not an easy topic, but it's an act of love towards yourself and towards others. Making it clear is liberating, because if that moment comes, no one has to guess. You will have spoken for yourself. Let me tell you about Helen. Helen is 74. She's lived alone since she was widowed, and her children are far away. But she doesn't feel vulnerable. She has her daily walking routine, eats on schedule, and keeps her health agenda well organized. One day she went to the doctor and received a delicate diagnosis. It wasn't urgent, but it did require decisions. While others panicked, Helen already had everything noted. She knew which options she wanted to explore and which she did not. Her children, upon hearing the news, were surprised to see their mother so prepared. "Don't worry," she told them. "I've planned this for years. I just need you to accompany me, not decide for me." That is smart health, not avoiding reality, but preparing to face it with dignity. So today, I invite you to reflect. What can you do for your health that you're not doing yet? Do you have your documents ready? Your checkups up to date? Your habits in order? Because caring for your body isn't just to live longer. It's to live better, with less fear, with more freedom. And if one day you need help, let it be by choice, not by lack of foresight. This pillar, along with the previous two, financial autonomy and emotional independence, can give you the security we all desire as we age. And now, let's move on to the emotional closing to unite everything from the heart. Legal interlude, decisions you should make before you need them. There's something many avoid, not from ignorance, but from fear. Talking about what may happen when we can no longer decide for ourselves. But if you don't decide, someone else will. And that someone may not know your wishes, your limits, your values. That's why making legal decisions in time is an act of wisdom and self-love. Let's get to essentials. There are 3 documents every older adult should have in order long before they need them. 1. The will. A will isn't only for people with vast estates. It's a way to make clear how you want whatever you have, little or much, to be distributed. It prevents conflicts among your children. It leaves peace, not doubts. Without a will, everything gets complicated. Procedures drag on, relatives argue, and what you built with effort ends up decided by others. With a will, you leave a clear closure, your final wishes respected. 2. Powers of attorney. What if one day you can't leave home? What if you fall ill and need someone to handle a transaction, collect your pension, sign a document? A power of attorney gives someone you trust the authority to act for you, but only if you decide it and under the conditions you set. You can make a general power or a limited one. For example, only for banking matters, only in case of medical incapacity. And you can cancel it any time if you change your mind. Without this document, your loved ones would face slow, costly legal processes to help you. With it, everything flows clearly and legally. 3. Advance medical directives. This is perhaps the least known and the most important. Here you define in writing what you want done or not done if you're in a serious medical situation, which treatments you accept, situations where you do not wish to be hooked to machines, whether you want palliative care, if you wish to die at home. You can also designate someone as your healthcare representative, someone to speak for you if you can't. This not only brings you peace, it also frees your family from the heavy emotional burden of guessing what you would have wanted in a critical moment. And how do you start all this without spending a fortune? You don't need expensive lawyers to begin. Many countries offer free advance directive forms you can complete and file at health centers. A basic will can be done at very affordable rates in public notaries. There are even campaigns offering discounts for seniors. What matters is not leaving it for later, because the right moment never announces itself. And when it arrives, it's too late to decide. Think of this as caring for your future self, not from fear, but from responsibility. Having your documents ready doesn't take away freedom, it gives it. Because everything you've built, felt, and lived deserves respect until the end. Throughout this presentation, we've touched on delicate but necessary topics. Naturally, you may have doubts. Here are some of the most common, answered with the clarity and respect you deserve. Is it wrong to live with my children? No, it's not wrong. But what matters isn't the place. It's the dynamics. Living with your children can be a blessing or a source of tension, depending on clear agreements, respect, and boundaries. If you choose to do so, make sure it's not out of absolute necessity, but from a shared, conscious, and balanced choice. Living with your children shouldn't mean giving up your space, your voice, or your routine. Having a room isn't having a home if you don't feel respected there. How do I set boundaries without seeming selfish? First, understand that caring for yourself isn't selfish. It's emotional health. Saying no respectfully, explaining your decisions calmly, and standing firm is better than saying yes while something inside you breaks. You can say, "I love you, but this isn't good for me." Or, "I want to help you, but without neglecting myself." Children, especially adult ones, must learn to respect your decisions and process. Remember, putting yourself last isn't loving more, it's forgetting yourself. What if my children insist I leave everything to them now? Ask for time, seek advice. No one should make major decisions under emotional pressure. You can say, "I want to organize my affairs, but I need to do it at my own pace and with legal guidance." If they insist, remember that your estate isn't just money or property, it's your peace of mind. Giving it up without safeguards can leave you vulnerable later. The best approach is that any help or transfer includes clear conditions, written agreements, and legal protection. Because loving doesn't mean forfeiting your security. And if I have no money, no health, and no family nearby, then you need to strengthen the other pillars more than ever. Your social network, your health habits, your emotional autonomy. Many people build new families in their communities, day centers, support groups, cultural or spiritual activities. Having few resources doesn't mean being defenseless. What matters is not isolating yourself, not giving up, not closing off. Seek local guidance. There are organizations offering free legal support, community medical assistance, and companionship networks. And above all, remember this: your value doesn't depend on what you have, but on who you are. You may not have chosen many of your circumstances, but you can choose how you respond to them. Today we've discussed 3 pillars that can make the difference between an old age full of worries and one of peace, dignity, and freedom. First, financial autonomy, which isn't about having a lot, but about keeping what's essential under your control. That small savings, that decision about your home, that timely no, can protect you more than you imagine. Second, emotional independence, because your well-being cannot rely on a call that may never come. Having your own routine, your own spaces, your own affections, that is within your power and priceless. And third, protected and smart health. We can't stop the passage of time, but we can walk alongside it with a clear mind and a cared-for body. Prevention is self-love. Organizing your documents, caring what you eat, moving every day, choosing what's good for you, is an act of empowerment. It may sound harsh at first, but it's not about distrusting out of resentment. It's about protecting yourself out of love. Self-love, love for the future, love for your story. Because you deserve an old age free from fear, manipulation, and unjust dependency. An old age that's yours, chosen, conscious. Don't wait for others to decide for you. Do what's within your hands today, so your future doesn't depend on promises, but on decisions. Now tell me, which of these pillars do you feel you need to strengthen the most? Is it your finances, your health, your emotional well-being? I'd love to read your story. And you know this community is a space where you are neither alone nor lonely. How old are you? And from where in the world are you listening? Leave it in the comments, and let's continue building together a strong, conscious, and respected old age. Thank you for being here. And above all, thank you for continuing to fight for yourself.